Blake Yarborough has over 100 rentals and a $40 million real estate portfolio. He started building it in 2009 when the real estate market had bottomed out and most people wanted absolutely nothing to do with real estate. In this episode, he breaks down how he scaled from zero using leveraged financing, what he missed on the balance sheet that cost him $5 million to embezzlement, and the lessons that he learned from that, and why someone with 18 years of experience like himself thinks that the market right now feels a lot like 2009 all over again. Welcome to the new DealMachine podcast channel. We're here to show you what's working in real estate. Be sure to subscribe.
We got Blake Yarborough from Houston, Texas. He's got 135 rentals and he's got a hard money lender. No, he's got a face like he doesn't have 135 rentals. How many you got?
No, well, I'm down a little bit. Somebody walked in my office. That's what that expression was for.
Oh. I was like, oh no, he doesn't.
I'm still north of, I think it's in the 110s now. But that's fine.
Just to finish the intro, I'm David Lecko. I started DealMachine 9 years ago. We've helped people close, I think, 100,000 deals in the last 9 years. And on this podcast, we aim to show what's working in direct-to-seller marketing. Ryan has a lot of experience as well. Give us a clue, Ryan, as to what you're speaking from.
Yeah, I started wholesaling in 2019. I've done over 550 transactions, and in that same gap of time, I built up a portfolio of 56 properties. I'm particularly interested, Blake, in how you got up to 100, so I'm excited to dive into that.
Yeah, and especially since you've sold off a few, right? So I think this is really important episode for those of us who are 1,000% bullheaded towards adding properties, to hear what that story's been for you, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, you started before we hit record. So give us a clue as to why. What's your why, right? Why did you get started in this business?
Let me kind of back up. In 95, I got my master's degree in finance. I was always a numbers guy. So I started a lending company. And then in the early 2000s, my niche became finance and investors. Went ahead, got married 2003, had a baby in 05 and another one 07. My wife quit her dialysis nursing career, and so she had no experience in this. But February 09 rolled around. I had a 3-year-old, 1-year-old, and recently married and was providing for my family a certain way. And I'll never forget that conversation. It's walking up to my wife saying, honey, I don't think I'm going to make it. I thought I was going to have to close down my lending company. And, you can have a sense of failure as a provider, as a husband, old-fashioned traditions maybe, but I was really down on myself. And, that's when you have that decision, fight or flight. Mm-hmm. I've always been a fighter, mentally and physically. Sorry. And, but at that time, I figured I knew how to finance investment property, right? That was my superpower. So it kind of almost feels like this kind of market, it's kind of not a lot of people out there really doing a lot of activity, but it's, but I figured the more assets I had, the more I could sell off to survive. And back then, that's when the Dow dropped to 6,500. The mortgage business was going out of business, and subprime crisis and all that stuff. So I was living in an area in Southwest Houston, and I started buying a little rental area and, flat out a hood. I was, at the time, buying a hard money loan to refi on everything, 100% financing, leveraging just a few $1,000s out of pocket on each. And I was trying to replace income. That's when prices were a lot cheaper and houses cash flowed a lot better. 6 months later, I had 10 properties, 12 doors that I had bought and kept as rentals, and there was a few flips here and there. And I said, look, honey, we refi these. It'll be roughly, $4,500 a month or whatever it was. 2 duplexes were in there. Mm. And she was brushing off her resume because she had quit her nursing career. But she was going to try to get back in it, do what she needed to do to help provide for the family team. And I told her, look, we're going to bring in X amount of dollars. We keep once I've refied it. Blake, that's what I bring home as a nurse. Go buy more properties. And I'm, full steam ahead, right? And high doer, low detail, all hell behind me, but I'm going. And fast forward 3 years later, April 2012, I had 60 rentals at that point. So keeping 20 a year.
Are these financed deals or were these cash deals?
Well, I was struggling financially at the time when I started. And yeah, no, I leveraged them all.
I'm only asking because I'm trying to compare where you're at and where I'm at.
It was a good time to buy property, right? Warren Buffett, be greedy when everyone is fearful, be fearful when everyone is greedy, right? Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of people out there buying. I was buying everything I could, just about, right? But yeah, once we refied, that's when my wife, she went from a nurse to a property manager almost overnight. And it was funny, some of our old things we were kind of trying to figure out on managing our properties because we were doing it in-house and no experience. But that's the main thing. And then at that point, I bought a franchise. Well, I bought a HomeVestor franchise at that time. And I was what they called a development agent for them for 12 years. And no longer associated with them in any way. But kind of like you, I bought well over 500 houses at this point. But during that 2010, 11, 12 range, we started getting traction on my lending company. So then my lending company was my income, and my houses, I could, I could sell just enough to keep some. I think one of the bigger, more recent years, I think in 20 or 21, I kept 20 houses again, that year. And, but I was a big 15-year note guy. I liked principal pay down on those. I know DSCR, you don't really have that option. That's the best loan program out there right now. But I was doing a lot of local bank loans. And I started those in 2009. And I was afraid of, the doom and gloom. What if the rate resets real high? Well, being a numbers guy, a 30-year amortization only pays down about 5% in the first 5 years, 4 to 5%. Mm-hmm. A 20-year amortization pays down 15%, and a 15-year pays down 25%. So I was doing a lot of 15-year notes with the assumption, almost as a defensive mechanism, to say if the rates jump from 6 to 9, I won't have any payment shock really because I've paid down principal so hard. So that's how I was being protective instead of leveraging everything and not paying down anything. So, and then that's, over time, 2021, on my daddy's 100th birthday, January 5th, I bought my ranch. I did a 40-something property refi. I pulled out 7 figures. I bought a 425-inch high fence inch. That's a small ranch. 425-acre high fence ranch just north of Houston. And now I got a deer breeding operation. I got buffalo, emus, exotics. I just had a wildebeest and scimitar oryx out there. And we're about to have maybe have 50 or 60 white-tailed deer babies born in the next couple months. So any day they ought to start dropping. So that's a whole another little ADD business I got going on over there. But anyway, but in short, I was leveraging everything and trying not to tie up much at all. And, we built up our houses, and we did try to lay it off on outside property management for a while. But, you get pencil whipped so much. I mean, respect to all my property management people. But I think one of the reasons why I guess I may have come across as a jerk, because I feel like I've been fighting these contractors for the last 15, 16 years, and I talked to a roofer, $350 a square. Well, I get it about $220 a square. I get it, a lot cheaper, and you just have to know what everything costs. And if it's reasonable to pay somebody. I don't want to do the work. I'm a numbers guy, right? But I want the guy that does the work for the guy with the pretty card,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we've still got a little bit over 100 houses. I'm starting to sell more things. One more on a note these days. So if I had a magic wand, I'd sell probably half outright and half on a note and be done. I'm thankful. I have a lot of friends that kept these houses over time. I mean, I've kept mine where they sold out in 2018 or whatever it may be. And then, you get a nice run up in values, like hopefully we're about to have. I mean, I still got, I don't know, $40 million worth of real estate and, another 10% increase in inflation on properties. Hell, that's another $4 million. But now I'm getting to the point, I've got plenty of assets. I've got the MTV Cribs house, I got the ranch, I got the lake house, I got the bay house, I got beachfront rentals, I've got the condo on the river. And it's sad when you start buying so many properties, you're like, oh, wouldn't it be neat if you were a college kid and your dad had a condo on the Kamal River in New Braunfels, Texas? Right. So, but that's really what's my thought. But at that point, I guess you got fun money, and so I've had some bad things happen in business, but related to my properties with embezzlement. But because of all my properties going up in value, it's pulling me out of it. I lost $5 million in embezzlement over several years.
Whoa, from a employee or team member?
Multiple team members, yeah, property manager and a bookkeeper. And 21 vendors were getting extra checks and zelling him money the next day after the check cashed. So, okay, here I go preaching. Anyway, so the Jewish language, there's no word that directly translates to coincidence, right? It's God has his hand in everything. Well, I've gone on some wonderful world-class trips with some very prominent people at these theology sites, but I got interested in taking theology. So I started my master's in theological studies right before I found out about the embezzlement. So I think it's important that helped me deal with that. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. You know what I mean? Or honestly, was God trying to humble me a little bit, right? Yeah. I've literally told bankers, you can't turn me down. I'm perfect money, perfect credit, perfect assets, and I get humbled a little bit, but but my lending business went all the way down to zero. Now it's growing back again. Nobody lost money. I was paying interest on investors' money, even though I lost the money. Now I'm replacing it, but no investor lost money, no bank. And they never missed a payment. They kept on getting payments because I'm not going to screw a 70-year-old man that gave me a lot of money. And like I've heard some peers have, or some people have done just because things went bad. I've always been able to make money, and I feel a good chance that I'll always continue to be able to make money. So that's the one area in life I don't think I'm going to ever screw anybody over on. Knock on wood, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Sorry if I went off task a little bit there, but
when you first started, you said you knew how to finance rental properties. How did you know that? What were you doing?
I started off conventional guy. I was always the takeout guy.
You were a lender?
Yeah.
You were you were working for a mortgage company?
I actually never worked for a mortgage company. In 1998, March 11th, 1998, I formed my background's financial planning. I'm actually still a certified financial planner. I haven't practiced it in 20 years, but I kept the designation just in case I ever worked for anybody, which I'm not going to work for anybody. But in 1998, I formed a company called Capital Concepts. I had a dream that somebody was going to sell investment properties, insurance, real estate, and mortgage. Well, it was me. And I finally settled on mortgages by myself. That's why I kind of weird company name for a mortgage company. But I started, and that was subprime days, and didn't know what I was doing. Flirted with some girls that worked for some of the subprime companies. I'd take them flowers and chocolates, and they would help process my first few files. And, I got that business going. Well, right around 2007-8, same time when the mortgage meltdown and everything, at that time, we could do up to 100% financing on subprime loans. I was still not really doing any hard money. But when Fannie Mae, subprime went away and Fannie Mae dropped down to 80%, 75%, well, that's when I started brokering hard money loans to other people and then refinancing it. And then eventually I got my own hard money lending going up and running.
And so people can come to you for a hard money loan, but also do private people give you money to lend out for them on their behalf?
Absolutely.
And that's Capital Concepts is the name of that,
yeah,
right?
And then really the funding source for it is Investor Lending LLC. But yeah, Capital Concepts more my client-facing company.
So you got your first rental property and it produced a cash flow that your wife said, hey, that's what I make with my nursing business. And that's when you went ahead and you started acquiring more and more properties.
Yeah, she said, go buy more property. So I'd buy them, finance them, turn it over to her. And then a buddy of mine was starting a contracting company at that time. And they would meet, they would rehab them, she would lease them out. And I was already on to the next deal.
Nice. And you also owned a HomeVestors franchise. So that you said you did 500 deals there, and that's like a wholesaling operation, right?
Well, no, it's what you do with the properties, right? I wasn't, my first year, I was first place loser, rookie of the year nationally. Second place. And I don't know what it was, 60 something houses. I think I bought that first year in 2012. And I don't think we wholesaled 10 that year. I had 22 laborers or contractors working for, not outside, I mean on my payroll, working full time, blowing these things out. And I did, probably kept half flips and half rentals at the time, feeding the engine with the flips and then keeping the rentals. To me, having all those guys was great when morale was up. But then when the morale was down, it started costing me a lot of money. All of a sudden, we're like, why aren't we finishing these things up? And I've got $100,000 we got to pay out every. It's a task. It's an operation, and sometimes simpler is better.
Do you make money on your deer breeding?
Sometimes I think. I don't know if it's possible to make money in deer breeding. Well, there's an old saying in the deer business: how to become a millionaire in the deer business. Start off with 2, end up with 1.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. You learn about bonus depreciation and accelerated depreciation and stuff like that in the real estate business. When I buy an animal, that's inventory. That's depreciation right there.
Right.
So, a lot of people don't think about that. And between the last 2 years, there was about it was still showed a loss. But a lot of the loss is basically the cost of my mortgage and my taxes for the most part. But it was about a $200,000 swing from the previous year to this year because we started selling hunts and I sold some whitetail deer to other ranches and things like that. And then started buying bulk feed. Anyway, I got all kinds of details. I could get into that. But I think hopefully my goal is not really to make a ton of money with that, but to pay for, the ranch.
Yeah.
Are you still acquiring deals right now, real estate deals?
Yes and no, right? I told my wife, she liked this neighborhood a couple months ago. She said, hey, I want more rentals in this neighborhood. It's got great school and it'll always be in demand. So 2 weeks later, she had 2 more houses in that neighborhood, right? But, on the other side of the coin, she's like, Blake, there's this other house in that neighborhood. I'm like, I think we're getting out of them. So I've got that little devil and angel on each shoulder. Let's go, one last run at it. I mean, I've got, probably 10 that I've kept in the last 4 or 5 months. Like I said, to me, it almost feels like that 2009, 2010. And all I know is to go. You see an opportunity, if I can buy that thing at the numbers, fine. And they don't cash flow as much. But let's say it's $300,000 house. You buy it for $180,000 with $40,000 repairs. Well, heck, that's $75,000 in equity right there. You do that 10 or 15 more thousand, that's another $1 million to your net worth.
How is your wife finding those properties? Are they listed for sale? Or y'all doing
like
marketing?
those she saw, because she's still 100% active She wasn't for a while. She's back in. But, she drove by an overgrown house, that looks like it's vacant. She said, maybe we need to check on them, see if somebody, wants to sell.
Yeah, so you call them up.
Like I said, I'm trying to get away, but I was still marketing a little bit. And then and we made some pretty good money wholesaling last month. But, and somebody else that I've been a good referral sources on houses, somebody wants to sell their house and lease it back 10 or 12 months till they move on. And I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? So it's probably you're going to take it. But I'm at that point now. Like I said, I'm about to be an empty nester. I'm 56 years old. I've ran hard for the last 18 years or so. And I know there's opportunity. I just personally don't want to do it. You know what I mean? It's, so I got a few people in place and we're doing a few things. I'm not running as hard as I used to, but we're thinking about flipping the switch for like one more run. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's not a great time for flipping here in town, but it's a great time to maybe be acquiring. That's why I keep on drawing similarities to 2009, right?
And why do you say it's not a good time for flipping? Just because the interest rates are higher and so there's less retail buyers?
I think that's a big part of it. Once they lower the rates with this new Fed guy coming in, if of course Jerome Powell, that's a whole nother conversation where he wanted to stay on board. Once they drop the rates, real estate prices going to unleash. People are going to be buying right now. But it's kind of like the old saying somebody reposted the other day, marry the property, date the rate. Right. Yeah. So go ahead and get the interest rate, even though it's maybe not what you want. But if you buy the house at the numbers, and then we can refi it later. So I think that's it. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of pent-up demand, kind of like it was, or not, maybe not to the extent it was right after COVID. But I think when they start dropping these rates, which I intend they will, then real estate's going to be on fire, and we're going to have some inflationary stuff and values going up and things like that.
That's why I almost feel like it's never a bad time to buy a rental, because the constant market changing means that there's always opportunity. Even if interest rates are high, well, eventually they'll come down. So if you get a good deal, buy it.
I 100%. There's always a deal. And it's like, okay, maybe if there's a little stagnant in the market, the rentals are still doing good.
Yeah.
Right? If people are losing their job, they're moving in together, but the rentals are doing good, Yeah. In a hot market going up, there's always going to be somebody getting a divorce, a estate, repairs too much. People want to sell to us out of privacy reasons, all kinds of reasons. So even in the hottest best market, you have those. Mm-hmm. And in the down market, you have more of them, Yeah. So I agree. 100%.
And you guys manage all of your rentals?
We do. And I think I started to touch on it. I tried to lay it off for quality of life reasons before, and it just was starting to get pencil whipped on stuff from the management company. We only did it for 1 year, and then they were using our own trades and our guys.
Right.
But I think there's some invoicing. I don't care how long you've been working with a trade. You know what I'm saying? I mean, got that invoice creep, and you're like, no. Well, let me call this guy. Oh, here, I'll lower my price.
Yeah.
What's the price of a water heater? Okay, electrical panel. No, I'm not going to pay $1,500, $2,000. Somebody from church, he quoted me like $2,500, $2,600 for a 200 amp breaker. I'm like, I've gotten a lot of them, $800, $900. I'll pay $1,200. I'm not paying $1,500, $2,000 or something like that. I mean, you start to know the cost of the equipment and then what's reasonable, right? Even on stuff that I don't really know what it should cost. I'm like, how much does it cost for materials and how much time would it take them to do it? And then I'm like, yeah, this reasonable number, and, right. And then with the knowledge that I've always got work.
I had a property manager tell me yesterday that a good investor does not cash flow because they are constantly keeping their properties up. And I was like, Man, that sounds like a property manager that's constantly invoicing for stuff is what it sounds like.
Yeah. I remember I was looking at Colorado vacation rentals, and heck, my vacation rentals for the most part are doing pretty good. Bay House didn't really pay them because it's not beachfront or something like that. But they went out of their way to tell me that the 25 to 40% is all you're going to cover on the payment. If I have a high quality condo on the slopes, in a desirable area, and I'm fairly priced, I think it's going to stay rented. But I think that's kind of setting you. Oh, I'll manage the property for you. Let me charge you 40% or something like that. And I think that's what you get into a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have third party management, they're charging management fee. That's fine. But but it's the using their vendors versus the vendors we know that keep their prices in line, and then there's no extra kickbacks going on and some of these other things.
How would you put controls in place so that you don't have people working against you, right? With the embezzlement that you encountered and discovered earlier.
Okay, let me say one thing on the property management stuff. And we're not doing it now. We're guilty of it. But what we finally did then is we had a list of all these common repairs and what we're willing to pay. So kind of tried to systemize it a little bit. Look, I can sit here and blame everybody, but I got 3 more fingers back of me. That's about the biggest lesson I've learned in business and the ranching business, right? I could blame anybody, but I wasn't managing the manager, so to speak. I don't even want to tell you the stupid thing I did but I went out of town and I allowed some digital signatures. And then I bought the ranch and I was playing with it, and even it was 300,000. The first few months of 23 were stolen. 2.3 million in 22, 900,000 in 21. You know what I mean? And it just.
So you allowed people to write checks so that it was more convenient for you.
So I had a CPA that moved away, and I think she got a second full-time remote job. And we had a bookkeeper that nobody was really giving him oversight. And he was hiding capitalized items. He was putting them on the balance sheet and where they should have been profit and loss. I lazily looked at only the profit and loss, and I didn't analyze the balance sheet. That's where the stuff was, right? Because you start getting all these things and all this repairs and everything going on. That balance sheet goes bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, it just kind of gets overwhelming almost, right? And I got lazy, and it cost me more than most people retire with. But nobody lost money. And
did you end up going after the individuals?
I did. I had multiple boxes of proof because I had 3 months of bank statements from this guy left on a computer where a check was cut. He got the Zelle payment the next day. We HPD'd whatever, Houston Police Department, then took it to FBI. And if I call them right now, they'll say, yeah, we still have a file. We're working on it.
I went to a black hole.
Yeah, I can't sit there and cry my beer, so to speak. I had to get my business up and running. I had to I went all the way basically down to zero and then started back up. And it cost me probably another couple $1 million to this point, getting everything back, paying everybody, paying this, that, the other. Like I said, I've been paying the interest even though I didn't have their money back in my business. And then I took a hell of a hit, and but I'm still standing, and I'm still more than blessed with more assets than anyone deserves. And
thanks, man. I appreciate you sharing that story. I think when you've got fingers pointed, you got 3 coming back. That's what stuck with me. And also understand the balance sheet is the right place to look for that stuff, not just the P&L. So there's definitely some wisdom there for all business owners to realize. No, you're saying as much as they love you, right? They might be
stealing
doing something behind the scenes. Yeah. I was going to say, you do have to end up giving people digital signature. Like I have 2 people on my team that have that. because there's just too much for me to be signing everything.
Yep.
You know, so I was really keen to hear what are the ways to keep a closer eye on it. So I think the balance sheet makes a lot of sense.
Well, and now we have a little more separation of duties and stuff like that. Somebody approves the bill, then somebody prints the check and stuff like that. Fair enough.
Well,
Good conversation.
It was a good conversation. I definitely got a lot of value from it. Blake, are you on Instagram more, or where do you actually spend most of your time online?
I'm old. I don't know. I don't really have much. I saw that I have 0 posts on Instagram with, I don't know, a few hundred followers, right? And my son asked me if I'm on LinkedIn. I was like, I don't know. I have everything 99, 99, 99 for all these skills. And I don't know. And I've got 5,000 friends on Facebook. I probably waste too much time on Facebook, but
he's on Facebook, everybody. That's what he's trying to
Facebook.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm going to add
Blake
one more
Yarborough
friend
on
to
Facebook.
your Facebook account. Will be from me today.
fair enough.
That's right. Thank you so much for the time, Blake. I really appreciate
I
it. Enjoyed it.
I'm an old guy, but I guess I'm going to get back out there a little bit.
Have fun.
All right.
Keeps you young.
Take care, guys.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.